Hey everybody, this is John Carter with Simpler Options, and let's take a look at Amazon. This is a trade that we'd set up in our live trading room on Simpler Options on Friday, and the setup was a 39-minute chart. We had to squeeze, and the waves were above zero on a 39-minute chart, not a 5, and so we bought the 255 calls for $5.50, and then today it gapped up, which is great. I mean, it's always fortunate when that happens. But then the question is how do you manage it? Well, I was talking to a couple people, and they were looking at a 1-minute chart. And it's really, I highly recommend not looking at a 1-minute chart ever. And so what happened here, and it doesn't look like a big deal here, but let's take a look at this real quick. And this is what happens, of course, in the morning is what it looks like. And what happened was Amazon gapped up and then went, 264.20, and a guy that was in our room, he's looking at his P&L, and it was up like $5,200. He's like, woohoo! And then suddenly it plummeted over $2, and suddenly the P&L is like $2,800, and he panicked and he dumped it. Okay, now that's fine. I mean, because you get excited, you've got all that money, you don't want to give it away. But the rule for managing stuff like this is just flip it to a 5-minute chart and do nothing for the first 5 minutes. You need to establish the 5-minute high and the low. Now, could it happen that we gap up and in 5 minutes we fill the gap in your SOL? Yes. Okay, that's a possibility, but usually doesn't happen, especially like on an upgrade and stuff like that. So then, once you establish the 5-minute low, then you place a stop and trail it up. So what I did, and Henry did today, is we just kind of trailed up a stop, and I ended up getting dinged about right here. Do I wish I still had it? Yeah, it did great today. So how that worked was, this is Google, I'll talk about that in a second. So Amazon, I'm out, did 100 contracts, and bought the options at about $5.50, sold them at about $11.15, so a little better than 100%. I don't know, it's 103%. Now, some of the folks in the room got out at $13, $14, which was great. They made a really good trade on that. Ended up booking 55K, which works. Now, for Google, we're doing an experiment here. We had a long kind of a bias on Google going into the close. So I did 3 trades. We're going to watch them all in the room and just kind of see, because always the idea is like, okay, hey, you think this is going higher. There's typically a couple different things you could do. One would be do a call debit spread. Okay, so we did that. We also did a put credit spread, and these are both kind of at the money. And then we did a long directional call. Okay, you could also do a butterfly and things like that. So the goal with this is just see like, okay, first of all, if Google does go higher, like we think it will, how will these positions all work? But more importantly, what if it goes sideways? Okay, then which of these positions work? And then, of course, if it just gets cratered, what's the heat we have to take? And that's really an important consideration because, yeah, you want to focus on the gains, but what happens if, God forbid, you were deciding to do something and it didn't happen? So that's what we're looking at there. Okay, so now what about the stock market? So everybody's bullish on the stock market. I'm like, I'm not going to buy the stock market with a 10-foot pole, okay? Remember we were talking about the VIX when it was up here. Be careful about shorting. What happened? The stock market exploded, okay? Now the VIX is all the way down here. You don't buy the stock market when the VIX is down here, okay? So if we come over here now and we look at the S&Ps, I mean, they're fantastic. Wow, look how high they are, but I just look at this as risk being to the downside. Now, does it mean that we won't go higher? No, absolutely. Okay, we could certainly keep going higher, but the risk is to the downside. The risk is that the VIX explodes higher and we come all the way back to 1433. Now, if we can come back to 1433, I'd love to buy it, but that's not where we are right now, okay? So just be careful on the long side. It doesn't mean we can't go higher. You just got to be cautious because now the risk to the downside is greater, okay? And then I also like the euro here. To the downside, we did come back to the mean. This is an area where I'm willing to start initiating positions, stop at the highs up here. You could actually wait and see if we actually get a little bit more, but this is where I'd want to start getting in. Let me look at an option chain. So if we look at this, I'm looking at this as more of a swing trade. So I don't want to do the options that expire in a week. These expire in 2 weeks. I mean, that's a maybe, but essentially we're at 130. So I'd probably look at about the 132 puts. Those are Delta 84s, that's actually not bad. But then if I go out to February, the 132 puts are 240. So this is to me kind of an easy one, is that, if you're trying to decide like, okay, I got 11 days and I got 39 days. And at 11 days, I got to pay $2.01. But for 39 days, I've got to pay $2.45. For an extra 44 cents, you get more time to work with it. I'll do that all day long. Now you can't do that with like Apple because it's so crazy different, but that's something that I would do. So I like these puts at current levels. Gives us some time to take some heat if we need to take some heat, and then we can go from there. Okay, hope that helps. You guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and we'll see you at the next video.